Welcome, everybody. I'm Lena Sisco, and that is Gavin Stone. And I'm super excited because we haven't done this in a bit. And so it's so much fun. We always have great conversations when we get to get on a Zoom or video or whatever we do together. But we brainstormed this session because I was thinking, what should I do for the next video for the new YouTube channel that I started? And together we came up with this thinking, you know what, this is really prevalent, especially today. It's something that we hold very near and dear to our hearts. It's something we know a lot about. And what we're going to share with you today is how to date safe and date smart. And listen, even if it doesn't matter if you're 18 or if you're 68, you can use these techniques. It doesn't even matter if you found a partner and you're dating them and you've been together for multiple years, but all of a sudden red flags are coming up. You can use these techniques. You can be in a committed relationship. You could be just starting off. You could be taking a break and thinking, I don't even know if I want to go back into that scene. But if you want to be partnered up with another human, we're going to teach you how to do that and do it smartly, do it safely. So you make sure that you're inviting in someone in your life that you can trust. All right. So I'm Lena Sisco. I'm a former interrogator, and I'm going to be sharing these techniques with you. And that guy over there is
I am a former intelligence contractor, so a spy for those who don't know, body language expert, amongst a million and one other things, and a best-selling author, which, have a look on Amazon and see for yourself. We've got some great stuff coming up for you, some real nuggets. So we've got the top 3 questions you should be asking before you go on a date, the kind of questions and how you should be asking them when you're on a date, as well as the research you should be doing before you go, and the top #1 tip for all the females out there who are wondering what they should do, and a load of other stuff, a bunch of other stuff that we're going to bring with you. And I know that's just from me. Lena, you've got some stuff too. What have you got coming up for them?
So, one of my biggest pet peeves in the world is when people ask really bad questions and they expect to get a good answer. All right. The other pet peeve I have is when people avoid even asking those questions because they have some type of fear, whether they're not confident, whether they're afraid to hurt somebody's feelings, whether they don't have that confidence to stand up for themselves. Okay. We're going to bust both of those in today's session because I'm going to give you questions that I want you to ask. Like literally, you will be asking them because they're only going to help you. And if you don't ask them, you're not going to get the information you need to keep yourself safe as you go into letting people into your life and into your world. So outside of questioning techniques, we're also going to share a couple of stories. We're going to kick off today's session with a couple of stories where people trusted other people that they shouldn't have, and some really bad things happened in their lives. We're going to tell you how to avoid that. And we're going to talk about what can happen, all the dangers out there, because sometimes we like to think, oh, come on, everybody's honest. I'm honest, so I'm only going to attract honest people. That is not the case. So
No, unfortunately.
we wished it were, but thank you for being honest. And what we're going to do today is we're going to make sure that you're attracting honest people and how to vet them for truthfulness and accuracy in the information they tell you, and how to avoid any mishaps by trusting someone that you shouldn't. Because there's a lot of people out there who will look to you and try to take advantage of your great personality, disposition, your trustworthiness, and we don't want that to happen, right?
Sorry, I was adjusting my camera in the middle of all that. I'm trying to do as discreetly as possible, and I was knocking things over left, right, and centre, and it was like a
Hey,
skittle
this is
alley.
a casual conversation.
It's a good job, isn't it? Let me
It
pull
is.
it back
I like
just
it.
a
It's
little bit.
looking good.
Gone too far now. There we go. Maybe that's a bit better. There we go.
Perfecto.
So I haven't chopped the top of my head off. Could do with a haircut though. So yeah, I mean, unfortunately, there are so many times and so many instances where this kind of things have happened. And what we're going to be looking at is not just the physical danger to yourself, where you could end up going out with somebody and getting yourself into physical danger. We're not just going to be looking at the fact that just with what you've got online on your own kind of profiles and that kind of thing, how that can put you in danger from the wrong type of people and how you could easily be found, but also things like financial dangers and that kind of thing as well. So we've got a lot of tips coming up for you, which they're going to be able to help you out in more ways than one, and help to keep you secure. So I'm really keen to hear this story. So Lena, come on, let's out with it. Let's have a listen
Okay.
to.
All right. So I have two instances to share that one happened to a close friend of mine and one happened to someone I never knew. But when I listened to what had happened, I thought, oh my gosh, how could this have happened? So let's work to avoid this, right? I always say, trust your gut because your gut knows what's going on. We'll discuss that later. But when you trust your gut, you can avoid some really horrible things happening. And even if you don't have all the information to trust it, just listen to it at least and say, wait a minute, if this person sounds funny or for some reason I don't trust them, please pay attention to that little voice. Don't ignore it. We're going to tell you why it's so important. But let me get into my stories first. And I wish that these two women had listened to their gut. Anyway, here's what happened. Last year, I was a keynote speaker for the Mid-Atlantic Association for Certified Fraud Examiners. And I gave a keynote. I was the keynote on the first day, and I sat down. I got to stay the rest of the day and listen to other keynote speakers. And one of them happened to be from AARP. And she went on about this story about how this older woman was contacted online. She was dating, she was widowed, she was lonely, she had a lot of money. Right. And she wasn't that savvy on her profile and how much information she had out there. So anybody could have looked her up or dug down deep in the cyber world and collected a lot of information, found out she was widowed and what she had in assets by way of financial means, etc. So somebody did that. And they posed as a doctor overseas, working for Doctors Without Borders, and gave her all this attention. And it made this guy, we don't even know if he was a guy or not, but this human apparently wrote her. They friended each other on a dating app and in constant communication. Of course, he sent pictures. Was it really him? Come to find out, no. And she loved the attention because think about it. What do we want? We crave attention for other humans. They make us feel good. And when they can make us feel appreciated and loved, wow, that's the best thing ever in the world. So she was feeling appreciated. She was feeling loved and she felt so good. And she really believed that they had this strong relationship. So as time went on, he ended up saying that he fell in love with her. All right. No sight unseen here, but he fell in love with her through pictures and online texting. I don't even think there was phone calls at this stage. And he professes his love for her and somehow gets her to agree to marry him. But, right, the caveat, but he couldn't get out of the country he was in because his bank was frozen or something. He couldn't access his funds, blah, blah, blah. Every excuse. He tried to make them, or it, he, she, tried to make them plausible. And this woman at this point now trusted this guy. She trusted this doctor because how can doctors lie? He's a doctor. He's out, Doctors Without Borders, helping people, not getting paid for it. What kind of human could lie? He fit the mold of being a person you could trust and as a do-gooder, right? So all of this stuff, because he created his own avatar and profile to say, I'm going to come across so trustworthy, right? Nobody would doubt me and my intentions. And he did. And so the time came where she had to give him money to actually exit the country to come to the United States. And she did. She had given him thousands. I think the total number was $25,000 that she wired to this guy. The day comes where she's supposed to meet him in the terminal. I think it was one of the was it Grand Central Station? I can't remember where it was, but it was a major terminal. He was supposed to fly in, train in, I can't remember. She's there waiting for him to arrive. He never arrives, never arrives. But he's contacting her saying, I got caught up in customs. I got caught up here. It's just going to be another day. But if you could give me a little bit more money, I could come there quicker, blah, blah, blah. At the end, he got all this money from her. He never showed up. And she had no way to get it back. And when she went to AARP and reported this, they did everything to help her. And she didn't report it for quite a long time because she was embarrassed about trusting this person. And here's the deal. We can't blame her. She's a human, right? She wanted love. She wanted attention. She had it. This guy preyed upon her, took advantage of her. Why on earth would we get mad at the victim in this? It's insane. And victims, there's a lot of victims out there who feel, oh God, I'm going to be judged. I'm going to be blamed. It's my fault. I better not say anything. No, absolutely not. We can't treat them this way. So when she finally came forward and she felt comfortable talking to this one woman who was delivering the keynote that day, they had formed a bond, a trust. She created a safe environment for this lady to be able to tell her everything that happened and tried to recover her money. But that is just one thing, right? Now that's on a huge scale. Take it down to a little smaller scale. I had a good friend of mine who was recently divorced. So she went onto the dating app. She's my age. Okay. So she's been around the block. She knows humans and she knows the deal. And we caught up one time over the phone call and she said, oh, I'm talking to this guy. He's gorgeous. She sent me pictures. I was like, yeah, he is stunning. Where does he work? Where in the world is he? And then she told me this. Oh, he works on an oil platform. I was like, oh no. I'm like, he's not real. What? He has to be. I'm like, nope, he's not real. I said, let me guess. And then she had said, well, we haven't been communicating on his phone because he lost his phone. I said, oh, I bet you it got dropped in the water. She's like, yeah, how did you know? I said, and I bet he asked you to send him a new phone. She's like, how did you know? I'm like, because this is the oldest scam in the book. They steal pictures of gorgeous looking men from the internet, put it up as a profile. Nobody can check it. And again, if you're craving attention and love and that interaction, and this gorgeous guy gives it to you, you're not going to turn him away, right? And then every time something happens because he can't respond via the phone or the email or whatever, it's because, oh, the service is out. Oh, well, my phone fell in the water. But if you buy me a new phone, I can contact you. And, I should be off the rig in a month. We can meet up here or there. So she brought the phone to me. We had dinner. And I was looking at all the text messages. And because I'm a statement analysis expert, I was able to pick out all the lies. And I said, all right, let's have a chat with him because he had his phone. And so I am now speaking for her and I start asking him questions. And I was basically interrogating him very nicely, but asking specific detailed questions. Guess what happened, Gav?
He probably disappeared faster than a fart in a fan factory.
Poof, gone, profile deleted, mystery.
Yeah, no
So
surprise.
yeah. So those are my two stories. And I just, I want to help people as you do to avoid even getting to the point where we have this emotional attachment. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
let's hear your story.
Well, yeah. I mean, should we dissect a couple of the red flags there with
Yeah,
those first?
yeah, go. Let's
Yeah.
do
I
it.
mean, so I mean, if we start with the last one, I mean, I love these ideas. There was actually a guy, he actually sued, what's that? Tinder. That's it. He sued Tinder because the Tinder app showed a picture of his face as a profile on their advert, and his girlfriend went
Oh my
absolutely
God.
crazy. He ended up splitting up with his girlfriend. He says, I'm not even on Tinder. And what it come down to, apparently somebody in the Tinder advertising department or somebody who put the advert together for Tinder or something, basically just snatched his photo off the internet and thought, yeah, he's a pretty good looking fella. Put him on the advert. And then next thing you know, nationwide adverts with his face on. So yeah, that was a bit of a disaster. So yeah, that just goes to show it doesn't even necessarily need to be somebody who is a scammer. People do it all the time. They go onto online things and they go, that'll do, that picture, that image, that. I've known advertisers from newspapers do it and all sorts of things. So, that's something you have got to be aware of. I recently told you about a lovely little app that is very useful for this, didn't I?
Yes, you did. Why don't you tell our listeners about it?
Yep. So this is something which is going to be fantastic for you if you are, and I know that a lot of people tend to use sometimes multiple profiles, or you can't find them, or they might use a fake name or that kind of thing. If you get their photograph, whether it's a screenshot, whether you download it, whichever way you get it, and you upload it to an app called PIM Eyes, that's PIMEYES, all one word, PIM Eyes. And what it will do, it'll do a reverse image search. It's specifically facial recognition. It's not for like, the Eiffel Tower and stuff like that. It's specifically for facial recognition. And what it will do, it will look at that particular person, use their algorithms and their system to find out every other social media or dating app or any other online presence they've got at all. So if they show up and they've got 20 different profiles in 20 different names and and whatever else, then that in itself is a big red flag. And at the same time, if it does show up and that person is a model, or they've got stock images of them on millions of sites being sold because they're a model or something along those lines, again, that's going to be your first biggest red flag. So yeah, that's the kind of value that you're going to be getting here with all the other stuff that we've got coming up. So check that out. Very, very useful app. And I have recently used it myself to save a particular person from getting into what would have been a really bad relationship. Which is how Lena and I got talking about it.
Yes, yes, I love that. So you have apps, right? And of course, you just have what I call your investigative tool. So, here's what can go wrong. First of all, you trust somebody, not only the stories that I just shared, right? You can lose money. They can take advantage of you mentally, emotionally, physically, financially. They can harm you, your friends, your family. They can ruin your credibility forever. They can take everything that you've worked for. This is very dangerous. So it is critical that you do the background work you need to get to know people before you let them into your lives. You let them know where you live. You let them know who your family members are, what type of car you drive, where you work, right? All of this stuff should not be known until you trust them. So step number one is get to trust them. How do we do that? Well, you could do what Gavin just shared with PIM eyes. You can run that through. And you can also just do it in a simple conversation, which is asking questions, right? So when I shared with you about the oil platform, gorgeous guy, and I got on, I was reading his messages, and I said, okay, where exactly is the oil platform? Guess what? It took a minute. And then when he finally answered, of course, I'm Googling it, right? And I said, oh, where's that near? And I was getting so specific. And then I asked him, well, what is your exact title? Because I have a cousin, a family member who actually works on an oil platform. This is what you have to do. You have to ask them questions, because in my world, I say, if it sounds like a duck and it looks like a duck and it walks like a duck, it's a duck. If this guy seems too good to be true, it's too good to be true, right? If he does not have the information to the detailed questions you're asking, the information's not there. It's probably a lie. So that's the investigative work that you have to do up front. Now, I am not saying that you're going to get on and you're going to immediately after the first two messages start interrogation 101 and be like, all right, sit down. I got some questions for you. All right. You're not going to do that. But as you get to know these people, you are going to ask them specific questions about, number one, what's in their profile. You can ask them even about background images, right? They have a picture, you see something in the background, a park, a building, a known place. Ask them where it was taken, why they there, right? So why are they there? Ask specific questions about what's written in their profile. Ask them questions about the images that they share. So like, for instance, there's a lot of times that people will not talk immediately or kind of fluff some of their information, which is protecting, which I get. But if you want to get detailed and they say that they have a particular hobby, and let's say they put up a hobby that is horseback riding, all right, they like animals or they like to horseback ride. Well, if you know nothing about it, you better look it up and ask some questions, because my questions would be so detailed that a horseback rider enthusiast could answer, but someone who has knows nothing about the equestrian world cannot. And so you have to use specific terms and terminology, and maybe say, have you ever barrel raced, or are you hunter jumper, right? What type of bit do you like best? What type of horse do you ride? How many hands are they? When you get that detailed, a person who is in the horse world will know those answers, or at least understand the lingo you're using. But someone who just threw it up there because they think that girls are attracted to guys who like the horse world and they know nothing about it, it could just be something that they're trying to use to bait you into getting to know them.
Yeah. And if it's a subject that you either don't know anything about yourself, or you feel out of your depth, if it's shooting, if it's golf, if it's fishing, there's plenty of experts around. There's always a family member or friend somewhere, Uncle Bob who goes fishing every weekend. Give him a call and say, listen, I need to ask this guy a few questions. What should I be asking? Uh, People love to give advice. We know that. So,
Yeah.
utilize it, capitalize on it. So, yeah, I got this feeling about like 12 months from now, we're going to be getting overloaded with emails from guys working on the oil rigs who are going to be turning around and saying, I can't get a date because of you. So just just for the record here,
Listen,
we're
just
not,
take a picture of yourself on the oil rig. There you go.
that's it,
You're
yeah.
good.
There's loads of easy ways around this, and it's simple things like video calls or whatever
Video
else. So,
calls.
that should be probably your number one priority before anything
Yes.
else, before going on any kind of a date, because one, it confirms the person, and anyone can get a photo from anywhere of
Anywhere.
anything. And if you
Yep.
can't, AI can make it for you these days. So,
Yes,
at
they
the end of the
can.
day, video call confirms that the person in the picture is the person you're talking to. So that's the most, like, the number one basic rule of before you step out the house, before you decide what you're going to
Absolutely.
wear. Video call. Yeah, and that's where you can do most of your kind of, how can I put it? Like,
Investigating,
yeah, your general
vetting.
question asking, yeah, your vetting. That's where you can start it off. Because if you have any red flags show up, if you have anything that doesn't feel right, if you feel uncomfortable, if you get that churning in your stomach that says something's off, don't go.
Yeah.
Just say, look,
And
I'm sorry. Yeah,
this is,
sorry, Lena.
it's funny because our spy background, right? Dating is just like recruiting a spy. You're
Oh
going to
yeah.
spot them. You're going to assess them, right? Who's the
Mhm.
right one? I'm on a dating app. I'm looking at all these potential partners, spot, 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 bam. These are my spotters, I think. Now you assess them. You get to know them. You investigate them. Now you recruit them. I want to date you, right? I want to go into investigate a relationship with you. It's the same scenario. And in that video call, do not meet with someone you meet online in person until that video call. Because here's another
Mhm.
reason. We know the advantages of AI. We know we can slim our faces, we can slim our
Mhm.
bodies, we can look beautiful, right? Gavin and I were just talking about this earlier. I click the make you look pretty button on Zoom. That's what I do. Do I look this good? My skin? No. But hey, it's a
She
fun
does.
thing to do. Yeah, he did meet me in person, but it's a fun thing to do. We get it. Who hasn't dabbled in it? But here's the deal. If you're going to meet someone, you really want to see their authentic self. So
Mhm.
they may have gorgeous photos or all photos taken from up here, right? So get them on a video call. Now you can see them in real life. And I'm not saying that, you have to be superficial and be like, oh, you're 10 pounds overweight. I don't want to date you. But here's the deal. They got to be authentic. You have
Mhm.
to be honest with the person. If you're going to put up photos that make you look 20 pounds thinner, do you really expect that person to trust you, to want to be with you? Because essentially you're lying. So just keep that in the back of your head. You're going to attract what you put out there. So put out your most authentic, genuine self. And that should help other people do the same. But get on a video call and you can see that. And you can also do the little investigation, the questioning with them, and see their nonverbal responses as well as listening to their verbal response. Because we know in our world, and Gavin will say this, is that the most accurate indicator of deception is behavioral incongruency. So that means it's not just about body language, people. It's about body language and the spoken language and the tone of voice and the rate of your speech. It's a holistic approach to human behavior. You need that in order to accurately assess if somebody's being deceptive or not. You cannot just look at body language. That's one little piece of the puzzle. And if you do just focus on that, it's going to lead you all around making up assumptions and guesses. And why would you want to do that? Right. So get on the video call, look at them, observe them, as I tell my students. You're going to look and listen as you're asking these questions and vetting their answers coming back for truthfulness and accuracy. And we'll get to that a little bit later in the show.
Yeah, yeah, and I'll go over a couple of stories as well of things that have happened in the past
Yes,
with a couple of
let's hear
people
it.
I know. The one, I'm not going to say her name because I love her to bits. She's my she was a next door neighbor for where Helen was staying. Anyway, lovely particular lady, and she wanted connection. and
Mhm.
she had the kind of person in mind that she wanted. And the person that presented himself was very, very good at manipulating the situation to make it look like he was everything she wanted.
Mm.
He was a bit of a chameleon, and the problem is he came across saying he was this rich. He was involved in Hollywood TV and one thing and another and blah blah blah. And he knew she'd got a fair amount of money to play with at the time, and he could have just been able to smell it, because next thing you know, he says, "Oh, I'm about to do this big movie and this and that," and he's giving her all the fluff, and she's buying it all in. She's seeing what she wants to see, which is a shame, because when you want connection, your eyes stop looking and your brain starts believing what that person's telling you, and it really is a awkward position to be in, that honeymoon period. Anyway, she was besotted, and she said, "Well, can I invest in this movie?" And he said, "Oh yeah, of course you can." And he led her up the garden path, knowing full well she was going to ask, because he was going on the phone to allegedly other investors and who were meant to be putting money in. And she put a lot. I'm not going to say how much. She put a lot of money into what was actually just nothing other than a scam. And then he
Mm.
disappeared. And it was an ongoing thing that when she'd put the first figure in, he led her down the garden path again, and she gave him another amount and another, and just kept going, because he kept on saying, "Oh, this has happened, and to get that to the next stage, we need this
Of
much, and
course.
to
Yep.
get your money back, we need to put
Yep.
more in to cover this." And she ended up losing a hell of a lot of money, and I felt so sorry for her. And in the end, I mean, the excuses were just getting worse and worse and worse by the minute. His limousine got robbed, his own protection security got beaten up, and all this business. And then the very last one was the ATM at the check.
Yeah.
And I just said,
God.
"Look," I said to her,
Oh,
I said,
man.
either he's ripping you off, or he's the most unluckiest guy in the world. Either way, you don't want to date him.
That's
so
funny.
so that
Oh,
was one,
no.
and like I said, I did feel
Oh,
sorry for her, because she is a genuinely lovely person, and still seeking the right person now, I believe. And then the other one was, and again, this can happen to anybody, because people do this a lot. She went on a date. It seemed to go absolutely amazing. She went home. She did what women do. She lay in bed, looking at the ceiling, thinking about all the future they're going to have together, and blah blah
wait,
blah.
how do
And
you know women do that? I'm just saying.
I
Um,
do. I'm stupid. So yeah, she woke up the next morning, and nothing seemed out of the ordinary until she went to her phone and was locked out of everything, everything, her emails, her Facebook, her social, everything.
Oh, my word.
And she couldn't figure it out, and she went onto her PC. She tried to get on again, couldn't get into anything. Was really, really freaking out, because she'd had a mixture of text messages during the night, from the bank, anyway, I sat down with her. I said, "What happened? Run me through everything in the last 48 hours." And she told me about this date, and I said, "Tell me more about what happened on the date." She says, "Oh, it was brilliant. We got on so well. We talked about everything." I said, "Well, what exactly did you talk about?" She said, "Oh, the town I grew up in, our
Oh,
childhood
no.
pets,
Oh,
the first
no.
cars we owned." And I'm like, "You do realize what you've been doing is giving him all the answers to your security questions.
Yep.
Town you were born in, your
Your
mother's
mother's
maiden
maiden
name. Yeah, yeah,
name.
yeah.
Oh,
It's
my
all.
God.
I said,
Oh,
you
my
may
God.
as well just have given your phone, your passwords, and your purse, and said, take the lot. She'd been locked out of her banking, locked out of everything. He'd changed all her email passwords, social media passwords, absolutely everything. Gone onto her bank account, and basically took the lot. I don't know exactly how it was done, but he transferred it or something. And yeah, so that was that.
That's
Yeah,
terrible.
absolute mess. And she thought it was a brilliant date that had gone really, really well. And again, you've got to feel so much sympathy, because she's the victim here.
Yeah.
Because when they're talking, and he's doing the kind of conversation like, "Oh, when I was a kid, I had this dog, and his name was Bob, and blah 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 blah, and well, he was my
My
first
first
pet, and I loved
pet.
him." And of course, she's endeared to it and
Yeah.
thinking, "Oh, and then so she's reciprocating, talking about her first pet." Then obviously, like I say, all the security questions one by one, he'd been through them all. Mother's maiden name, town she was born in, first school she went to, first car she owned, the whole lot. And when she went through how the, step by step to the data, I thought, I know exactly what's happened. And we went online, everything was gone, his profile was gone, all trace of him vanished. So
So this
yeah.
makes me think of something, the same event that I was the keynote speaker for that I mentioned earlier when I
Mhm.
was listening to the woman from AARP. Well, there was another gentleman, and now it escapes me. I can't remember his name or what company he was with, but there was about 300 people there, right? And
Mhm.
he said, all right, I want to run you guys. I bet I can guess the password to your phone.
Mhm.
And everyone's like, no way, no way. Now there's 300 people. He's like, okay, I bet you I can. He went through. So I got out my phone, right? And I'm like, okay, I'll play along with this.
Mhm.
Son of a gun, if he didn't guess my password. And I
Mhm.
was just, and everybody, and so one girl had popped up and volunteered. She's like, you'll never guess mine. And at the very end, he's like, give me your phone. And he's like, shh, showed her, got in on stage. And she was just, I was like, if he had done it to me, you would have guessed it. So
Mhm.
if you have a phone, make sure that your passcode, if you're using numbers, is minimum 6 digits. If it's 4, forget it. It's crackable. So easy. And it was all through conversation. The
Mhm.
year you were born, where you live, your favorite, whatever it was, his algorithm worked on all 300 people, and he could have gotten to any one of our phones through that conversation.
Yeah, it really, really is easy. It's really simple, and there are even other ways of doing it that and I'm not gonna put it online because I don't want it to become common knowledge.
Yeah. Oh,
But there are
yeah.
ways of getting somebody's passwords and their PIN numbers for their phones very, very easily. In fact, I'll tell you about it later, Lena, offline, so that it doesn't
Okay.
end up happening to you. So yeah, that's like I said. The only reason I'm not keeping it because I'm being selfish. I'm keeping it because I don't want it
Yeah.
to become a
Yeah. I
system
know. I
that's
hear.
abused.
Yeah.
um,
I
so
agree.
yeah, so that kind of covers the questions that they're asking you. If you're going on a date that's going swimmingly well, just have that side of caution that makes you go, okay, what questions are they asking me, and why? Are they just making conversation, or are they getting information out of me? Are they extracting intelligence, as we call it? So
And if
that's.
they ask you a strange question or bring up a strange topic that makes you go,
Mm.
hmm, all you have to do is to ask this. Why would you ask me that? Why do you ask that? Why do you want to know? Very
Yeah.
simple, very easy. And if their reason causes
Mhm.
your gut feeling to say, warning, pack it up,
Mhm.
walk away.
Yeah. And again, if you're worried about sounding impolite, you're worried about offending somebody, I mean, you really shouldn't be, because if somebody's
No,
out there to do this, but if you are, there are other ways that you could phrase it. Though you could just go, "Look, that's an interesting question. Where did that come from?"
bingo.
you know and
Yep.
and just watch them, see their reaction. So we are sociable animals, and we do have this thing, unfortunately, where we try so hard to be polite and fit into the social norms. We
Yes.
are the only creature, animal, life force on the planet that will willingly put our own lives in danger in order to fit in with social norms. It's absolutely crazy. It's what's referred to by a friend of mine from CIA. He used to work CIA security, and he hit the nail on the head with what he calls the elevator test. He
Mm.
said a human being will press a button for the elevator, and the elevator will come, and the doors will open, and there might be some really nasty, nasty looking piece of work in there that you think, oh, I don't feel safe getting into this elevator with that person. But the majority of people will still, because of society, because of pressures and
Walking right
politeness and whatever, get into the elevator and press that button to close the doors. Now, imagine you're a gazelle and you go to the elevator and you somehow press the button and the doors open and there's a lion inside the elevator. Do you think that gazelle is going to get into that box?
there.
No.
It's gonna hop
Um,
away.
Exactly. It's going to get the hell out of there fastest.
Yeah.
But we don't, as humans, we're like, oh, well, it'd be impolite. And there are always ways to get around this. You can tap your pocket and go, oh, and make it look like you forgot something and walk away. You
Oh
can,
my
you
gosh.
can, there's so much you can do.
I
So,
just
so
did
much you
this,
can
Gab. I
do.
just
Did
did
you?
this. I travel all the time, as you know. I was in Virginia Beach, was staying at a hotel on the waterfront just last month. And I came in from dinner and it was a little later, I don't know, 8:30, maybe 9. And this guy popped on my radar. And I'm like,
Mhm.
he's watching me too much. He's following me. So I go past the front desk. I go to the elevator. I'm waiting. He comes with me and waits. I turned around and just walked in the lobby. I don't have to give him an excuse. I don't like him. I don't trust him. I just turned around, walked into the lobby. He could take that elevator. I took the stairs and went up to my room. But because I don't owe anybody anything, I owe me something. That's protecting me. So
Exactly.
yeah. And please think that way. And when you get to
Yeah.
asking questions, the specific ones to this person you're getting to know, such as anything, if they say they're divorced or they're separated, and you're like, I really need to know more about that. Ask the questions, because if they're being truthful, they are going to tell you willingly and not take offense to it. If they're lying to you, they're going to get defensive. Okay. So remember that truthful people communicate in a way to convey information and to help other people figure out something that doesn't make sense. They're willing to help. So that means they're willing to provide a lot of details. Okay. Liars don't like details. Number one, they want to avoid them. They want to hop over them, skip over them, and will not work to help you make sense of something strange, because they already know they're doing something strange, which is lying to you. So they, instead of conveying as much information as possible, right, will try to convince you. But you should believe me. I have no reason to lie to you. Why would you even ask that? Listen, but I wouldn't do that. It's not the person I am. That's a lot of fluff in my world and a lot of convincing. Give me the hardcore evidence. Right. And so sometimes you have to ask that. And the reason why you have to ask these questions is you need to hold them accountable for the information they've either told you, put up on a profile, said in a previous conversation, because if you don't hold them accountable, it can make it very easy for them to not have to tell you the truth and to get away with lying, even lying by omission.
Yeah. And of course, you know, these are the things that, like you say, people shouldn't be frightened to answer these questions. You can understand people wanting to keep certain personal details private, but you know, at the end of the day, if they've got nothing to hide, you know, with you know what they're you know what the whole situation, anything really, then there's no reason,
even if
you know.
they're between jobs and it may be a little embarrassing, let them
Yeah.
know that you're not judging them. We've all been there at some point. There's nothing to label or judge or whatever, but you do deserve the truth.
Yeah, even if it means calling out how you feel about the whole thing and just saying, look, you know, I'm only asking because I need to know for my own safety. Simple as that. That's it.
There
You
you go.
know. And if
Yeah.
they don't like it, their problem. You know.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do, should we? If we go to pre-date, some of the things you can do before your date, then we'll go the questions you ask before the
I
date
like it.
for the top three, and then the questions you ask while you're on the date. So
Like it.
pre-date, what I'm going to do, I'm going to advise everybody out there, and I say this, you know, as what Lena said here, you know, we're giving you spy advice to use in the civilian world, right? So number one, reconnaissance.
Yes.
All right, not just on the person that you are going to be on this potential date with, but even on the location of where you're going on the date, right? And we'll cover both of those. First off, with the person, find out as much as you can about them in respect of, are they on social media? If they've got no social media presence at all, that in itself, you know, is something you want to find out why. Okay. Some people just don't like it. Some people just don't want a social media account. So it doesn't mean they're an alien. It doesn't mean they're a serial killer. You know, but in this day and age, most people do have some form of social media presence. And if they don't have anything, there's no trace of them anywhere, that should be a little red flag, because you know, you want to say, well, you know, you should have something, even if you're just in the phone book or whatever, you know. Well, yeah. So yeah, I know we don't use those anymore, do
We
we?
are dating ourselves with
I
that.
know they used to dangle in the call box when I was
Yes,
young. That was,
they
yeah. So
did.
so yeah, that's something that, you know, the digital phone book. I don't know what they call the online version of it these days, but there should be something. And if there's nothing, again, use apps like PimEyes, use apps like That's Them. I don't know if you've
Who
heard of
is?
That's Them. Who is? Yeah, that's the one.
Yep. Who is?
I knew it was
Yeah.
something like that. Things like that. Find out what you can about them, not because of the fact that you want to stalk them, but because of the fact that you want to know that this person genuinely exists. Is this a fake name that they're using? And if it is, then why? Why would somebody want to do that? So that's like the number one. Find out what you can about the person, and then secondly, and most importantly, the actual date itself. You decide the venue, not them. Okay. If this is something where he says, "Oh, you know, it's a family christening, I want you to come to," then ask yourself why someone would take you to a family christening on a first date when they don't know anything about you, and um, not advisable. Pick the location. I'm going to give you my number one spot, ladies out there. If you're going on a first date, I'm going to give you my number one spot, and I've said this before. It shocks everybody,
Mhm.
and that, believe it or not, is Hooters. All right. And everybody's going, "Are you nuts?" And there's a
Why
very
would I
good
do
reason
that?
for it. I
There's a
know,
good
yeah.
reason. Yeah.
In fact, there's a bunch of good reasons. Number one, you can see how he's going to react with other females in the room, and how he's going to be around those. The most important thing is there are other females there who will be able to empathize with you if you let them know that things aren't going so well. And there is a way of doing that, which is the main reason why I brought this up. On the back of the toilet door, in the ladies' toilets, there's a little thing, and don't ask how I know, but in the ladies' toilets,
First question popped in my head.
there's a little sign on the back of the door, and it'll tell you if you're on a first date or you're on a date and you're not feeling comfortable, order this particular drink and we'll call you an Uber. Order that particular drink and we'll get you out, escort you to your car safely. Order this particular drink and we'll call the cops. Blah blah blah. Just go to the bar and we'll help you out. We're here to help you. So yeah, there's plenty of ways with that, and like I said, the most important thing, you can see how he's going to react. Are his eyes just on you?
Yeah.
And that actually leads me to another thing when it comes to dating. When you with guys, how he treats you is not anywhere near as important as how he treats the waiting staff and the other people around him, because that's his true colors. So just bear that in mind.
Yeah, because
So
he's
yeah,
not out to impress them. He's out to impress you. So you're going to get the representative, as my husband calls it, the charming, the nice, the overly attentive, blah, blah, blah. But he's not out, or she is not out to impress anybody else in the periphery. So watch that interaction. Absolutely.
Yeah, will speak volumes about their real personality. And then I think probably finally on this little thing here, there's two little things I want to cover. Number one is the call. All right. We all know this exists,
The
right?
what?
I've been on. Oh, you'll know this, Lena.
Oh, okay.
I'll say it, and you'll go, "Oh, yeah."
Oh,
I've been on that many dates, lots of first. That sound awful, don't I? I've been on a lot of first dates, and what happens is, at some time during the night, the phone call will happen, and you'll get, "Oh, yeah, yeah, no, he's okay. He seems all right. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, we'll probably go back to his place, or we'll see how the night goes, or whatever else. Thank you, no problem." And that's it, right? And that's the check-in friend. All
yeah.
right.
Yes.
Now, we all know it. We all know it. Blokes wait for it, because we know as soon as that's happened, we're like, gonna, "Ooh, I just got a green light." I mean, don't get me wrong. If she suddenly stands up and says, "I've got to go, the dog's on fire and the kids have run off and my house is blown away and there's a bailiff at the door," then basically don't bother texting her back the next day to say you're okay. But if you get the green light, that for every bloke out there, we know that it's going to be a good night. So if we know that, then so do serial killers, and so do all the other criminals out there, and so do So at the end of the day, go a step further. All right, have somebody know everything with your location for the entire night. If you're going to go back to a hotel, back to his place, back to your place, let somebody know every step of the way. All right. And the more you can do, I mean, again, I would not recommend going in somebody else's car. If you're in your own, which again, I'll cover this in a minute, just turn around and say, "No, you take your car, I'll follow you." Right? If we split up, send me a message. Simple as that. Okay. And when it comes to cars, don't take your own. All right. Either borrow a friend's or a family member's or something like that.
Uber.
Worst case scenario. Uber, preferably tracked. So you've got this your thing now where you can have a friend share your ride on. They can track it and all that. So so that in itself is worth doing. And if you don't like Uber and you don't have friends, a rental car's pretty cheap these days. Go in a rental, they can't track it back to you, and you got nothing to worry about. So these are what I'd recommend for getting to and from the venue. The venue itself. Again, do your reconnaissance. Go there a few times. Get familiar with the staff. Get familiar with the layout. Get familiar with where the exits are. What is there a back door out? Where does it take you to? Where's your next port of call if you run out of that place? all these things. This is spy stuff that you're going to be using on your date. So, and it sounds
Yeah.
overwhelming. I don't want this to put people off and go, yeah, I'm never going on a date. There's a world full of psychos
I
out there.
know because it sounds like that, but it's not. We're just
No,
giving you a whole bunch of tools to use to protect yourself and to think about. Especially, I'm going to say 20 years ago, we didn't have to think about this stuff, hardly.
no.
There was, John Wayne Gacy and Ted Bundy and that, but
Yeah,
it just seems more prevalent with technology and
yeah,
everything that we can find out these days and how easy it is to scam and get away
yeah,
with it. So this is what
yeah.
we're doing. We are thinking of the worst case scenario and we're coming up with solutions for you to use.
Yeah, and of course, yeah. Don't let this scare you. Don't make it put this thought in your head that it's a big bad scary world. All we're trying to do is say that prevention is better than cure. Just use your wits
Yes.
a little bit, and when you go out there, keep yourself safe, and that's it really. So, Lena, I'm gonna ping it over to you,
Yeah.
just to give your thoughts on what I've said, and if there's anything you'd like to add to it.
No, I think it's brilliant. And I love that because it's about physical security too, right? It's about the protection. Your tips are amazing. I think we can segue now to being in the date. And whether this is the first date or the second date or the third, if there are burning questions in your mind that you want answers to, you got to promise me you're going to ask them. All right. If you're dating someone and you are on one of the apps and you're dating multiple people, and you want to find out if the person that you're on a date with is also dating multiple people, or even if you're not, right? But you want to find out if they are, ask them. That's it. Just ask them. Don't try to find out a sneaky way. Don't beat around the bush. Just come out and ask them, because here's the great thing as to why you're going to gauge their honesty level right then and there. And you're
Mhm.
going to see how comfortable they are being honest with you or uncomfortable they are. They may come out and immediately say, nope, this is the first one, or only you, or I was dating. Whatever their answer is going to be, if they're congruent and you don't see any indicators of deception, then that's a good sign. You have honest communication, you have an honest answer. If they even tell you, I'm dating multiple people, that's a great sign, because that took a lot of courage to say. So now you know they don't fear being honest, and neither should
Yeah.
you. So it's all about those questions, because here's the deal. If they fear being honest with you and don't tell you that they're dating multiple people, now 10 years down the road, you marry this person and something worse happens and they fear being honest to you about it. That's not good. So with the little things, this is easy. Yes, I'm dating multiple people. Great. Okay, I just know now. That's it. Test their level or their fear about being honest in the small stuff. And if they have fear on the small stuff, to me, that's a no-go, because the big stuff will never get the honest answers that you need. So ask them, who else are they dating? You can even ask people, well, why are you dating? Why are you dating? Why are you on Bumble, Tinder? I don't know what the other ones are. Used to be Match.com, whatever. Why are you on this particular platform? Hear their answer. They may be on all of them, right?
Mm.
But as again, you're judging their fear of being honest. And hopefully there's no fear being honest. But any question that you want to know, you got to ask for it and make that question. Here's the interrogator side coming out, an interrogative question. Don't make them long-winded and squishy and confusing and vague and yes, no, and close-ended. Less words, the better. Clearer communication starts with an interrogative. What other dating apps are you on?
hmm
How
I'll gi-
many other people are you dating? That's
yeah.
it.
I'll give you my top three questions in just a moment. But what I will say is, if somebody is on all of the dating websites, that in itself would at least have me a little bit concerned if they're on every single one. And what I would do is I'd be cross-referencing them and say, hang on, how come he's a lighthouse keeper on this one? And he works in an oil rig on that one, and he's in the army on this one. He likes tennis here,
Yeah.
fishing here, golf there. Just cross-reference and
Yeah.
take a little look,
Yeah.
and find out. And if things don't match up and marry up at that point, then just don't go any further with it.
Yeah.
So, top three questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
In reverse order. And this is something that if you are going through the night, and you're getting to the point where you think, I actually like this person. I think I can see this going somewhere. There's a wonderful little question. How you ask it isn't as important, but you need to kind of gently ask what caused your last relationship to end, right? There's
Yes.
loads of different ways to ask it.
Yes.
How come you're on the market? You're a good looking
Yeah.
person. How long, you don't necessarily have to say how long have you been single, but, I'm sure you've got your pick of partners, in what happened, last time kind of thing. How did it end? And look for patterns,
Yeah.
right? Because if you turn around and say, well, the last one, she left me because I cheated, and the one before her, well, she left me because I cheated, and the one before her, she left me because I cheated with her sister, and the one before her, she left me. This is sounding like my, no, so my resume.
Probably
So
gonna cheat on you.
yeah, stands a chance that they're going to cheat on you. So at the end of the day, look for these patterns, ask questions. And again, what this does two things. Number one, it shows their level of honesty, like what Lena was talking about. And if they're afraid to tell the truth, if all of a sudden they start mumbling, fumbling, and choking on the dinner that they haven't eaten yet, then, you've got to start getting worried. If on the other hand, this person turns around and says, well, it was something, I was in a relationship with somebody, and we'd been together for a while, but things weren't working out, so I left because I'd given her a couple of chances, and it didn't work out. What that shows he has got boundaries. He's given this
Mhm.
person a couple of warnings. They
Yeah.
didn't change the way they acted, or whatever the case may be, or try to make amends. So he left. Because you don't want to push over. You don't want to cheat, but you don't want
Mm-mm.
somebody who's just going to be an absolute flop. So if this person's got boundaries and is there saying, look, I tried to work it out a couple of times and said, if it's not working out, I'm leaving, and they did. That's a good show of character, in my opinion. So that's question number 3. Number
Okay.
2, and this is really, really important. What are you looking for? And this, so many people are
Yes.
afraid to ask this question,
Yep.
right? And I'll be honest with you, from a guy's perspective, this is something that does make us kind of shaking our boots a little bit,
Mhm.
because we're thinking, well, hang on a minute, what is she looking for? Because I don't want to rule out the fact, if she turns around and says, I want a long-term relationship, and I'm looking for a long-term relationship, then great. But at the same time, I'm looking for a long-term relationship. But if she just wants to spend one night together, I don't want to ruin that chance either of going home and having one night before I move on. So guys do panic with this one a little bit.
Oh,
So if you want a head start with what you're looking for, be completely honest and upfront.
yeah.
Right, just turn around and say, look, I'm not necessarily looking for a one night stand. I am looking for something a bit more commitment long term. How about you? You
Yeah.
know, and that's it. And just see where it leads. And you don't have to be scared with it. And see how they answer, see how they reply.
They could even just say, I'm looking to date. I haven't
Yeah,
dated in a while. I'm just looking to date. I'm looking to meet people, and it's exciting to me, and I'm enjoying my time right now. It doesn't have to, they don't have to say, oh, I want to get married and I want the white picket fence and the kids. No,
yeah.
if they're just enjoying dating, they're enjoying dating.
In fact, if somebody did say they want to get married, white picket fence and kids, then that is something that would just sort of straight away make you go, "Oh, what? First date? And he's already talking about marriage."
That's
So
me.
yeah, and then like my number one question, which is more of a request than a question, and this is when you get to the date. If you're stuck, then basically just say, "So, tell me about yourself."
Mhm.
Simple as that. You don't have to start turning it into an interview where you say, "Well, where did
Mm-mm.
you go? Where what?" Yeah, you can just say, tell me about yourself, and this is the opportunity for them to start talking to you about
Yes.
themselves, and for then you to pick up certain things and probe further in different areas. So really important here that you not only listen to what they say, but what they don't say.
Yes. And
um,
typically, when you leave something that broad, I always start all my interviews and interrogations with a question like that, because whatever they start talking about first tells me exactly what they're thinking. That's
mhm.
right here. That's what's on their mind. So it also gives me an insight to, motivations, intentions, what they're worried about, what they're concerned about, what they're happy about. Yeah, it's a great way to lead off conversation.
Yeah, yeah, and it doesn't have to sound like it's the delivery of that question you can change to suit your personality,
Yeah.
but it also shows a little bit of confidence. If you sit there and you take a sip of your drink and say, "So tell me about yourself," what you're saying is, "Sell yourself to me." I want to know
Yes.
that that
Yes.
I'm doing the right. So
Yes. I
just
love that.
said in the right way, it can come across as confident without being too cocky, but get you the information that you need. So right, I think and
Love it.
because we've done probably over an hour now,
I
so
know.
yeah,
I
we've
well, All right, so a couple of things as we wrap this up, because we don't want to get too lengthy, is I have some statistics that I found that were kind of funny. 1 out of 10, right, Gav?
Mhm.
7.8%, 1 out of 10 of women say that men post photos that make them look taller and trimmer and that may obscure their hair or lack of hair.
Mm.
This is what women say. 6.6 out of 10 women say allegedly men lie about height, age, marital status, children, and income, but may do slightly less than women. What men say. 1 out of 10, 8.4 out of 10 men say that women post photos that make them look thinner, younger, and are all too skilled at taking flattering selfies. Uh, and then 7.3 men out of 10 say that women lie about their age, weight, height, and appearance. Men are slightly more concerned than women. Isn't that interesting? We're just different, men and women are
Yeah.
different.
And playing devil's advocate here, it's one of those things that if we were just a little bit, all of us, just a little bit more open
Mhm.
with where we're at with things, rather than trying to hide it. I mean, don't get me wrong, everybody wants to have a photo where they're looking at their best.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
understandable. Nobody wants to
But
have
you're
the ugly
gonna meet
photos.
in person at one
Yeah.
point. They're going
So,
to see the real you.
yeah, when you get there and they realize that you're not a size 2 and that you're kind of, just, you know,
Oh my
try
God.
try and yeah try and say it as it is. You don't have to flood your profile with ugly pictures, but at the end of the day, I mean, on my social media, I've got pictures of me swimming on the beach with, I am not the most athletically built person in the world. It does vary from time to time, but I don't hide that. I'm not bothered by it. There's pictures with me all over the place with my tops off or with in shorts or other types of pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah, so but I think that's the best way to be and a better way to be than trying to hide it completely and who you are completely, in every way. Just a little bit of honesty both ways. It goes a long way, and it saves any disappointment.
It so does. All right, let's wrap this up with a couple of red flags. All right, so some red
Mm.
flags that I think are so easy to identify, and I'm going to rattle some off. We could talk about a couple of them a little more in depth, or at least just provide an example. But number one, falls too hard, too fast, right?
Mm.
So be leery of that because you want to ask them if there's questions. Why exactly do you love me? Right? What exactly do you love about me? They should be able to answer this. When did you realize you fell in love with me? And why should I believe you? Right? So if they fall too hard, too fast, those are some good questions you can ask. If you're asking questions and they deflect the question, they talk about something else and then take the conversation another topic, go back and ask that question again. If you ask a yes no question and they can't answer a yes or no with
Mm.
conviction, you may have a problem because a lot of times I will use yes no questions to see if you're lying to me or telling me the truth because truthful people typically have no problem answering with a simple yes and no. If somebody's lying, they will typically avoid taking commitment of a yes and no and embellishing that answer or just avoiding it altogether. And again, I say typically, it's not 100%, but a great way to check to see if someone's lying about one specific detail is ask them a yes or no question. And if they're talking to you, but they leave out possessive pronouns and they're not talking about my divorce or my job or my money, my car, or I initiated the divorce or I wanted to date or I, whatever. If those I's and my's are absent, they may be trying to give you fluff and avoid taking accountability and responsibility for what they're saying. So pay attention to see if they're saying I and my with commitment about what they're talking about. That shows accountability and responsibility. See if they're deflecting those questions, trying to control the narrative. See if they can answer those yes no questions. And of course, they're falling too hard, too fast. Have a couple questions to help you out there. Gavin, over to you. Red flags that people should
Sure.
pay
So
attention to.
yeah, I mean, I love that one. The too hard, too fast. Their answer is going to tell you absolutely everything. If
Mhm.
they come back to you and say, "Oh, you're funny, you're colourful, you're beautiful, you're entertaining," blah blah blah, say, "Yes, that was a Disney movie." What is it about me that you love? Come on, be specific, because anybody can come up with these wishy-washy,
Yeah.
vague compliments and whatever else, and if they can't, then they don't know you. And if they've never met you and they don't know you and they're falling in love with you, I'd be really, really concerned. So, that's red flag number one. And if you want a really, really, really great tip here, then you're going to love this. It's towards the end of the night when the bill comes, right? I'm not going to give any sexist arguments or anything else or
Oh.
anything like that. Just look at the person you're dating and turn around and say, shall we run off? And wait. All right. And their response will tell you a lot about them. And
Wow.
if you need any
That's
more,
funny.
if you
That's
need any more than that,
funny. That
then
is funny.
contact me and I'll let you know. So yeah, I reckon what we should do is we should segue into a potential part two,
Yeah.
because there's a lot to cover with this.
Yeah.
We've covered some of the very, very, kind of surface level basics for you. If you've got any questions that you want to, please send them our way. Put it in the comments, whatever, and we will answer them on the next one. And I'll give you kind of the questions to ask for date number two. The most important thing, especially for the women out there, if you are on date number two, I know women can be really, really insecure, and they're always going through this kind of, does he like me? Does he, is he interested in blah, blah. They're still asking that questions 2 dates in, 3 dates in. Listen, if you're 2 dates in, if you're 3 dates in, he likes you. All right. You don't need now to be worrying about that. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the stage where you can get rid of that self-doubt, have a little bit of self-belief, start
Yes.
being yourself,
Yes.
and open up and be honest and whatever else. Because if you've gone past one date, he's come back for more, he likes you. Take my word for it. That doesn't mean to say you're going to have the perfect relationship forever and that
Mhm.
you're going to be a perfect match. But what it
No.
means is he was interested enough to come back. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Wow, there's so much to recap. Because there's a whole section that we didn't even talk about, which is
Oh,
personalities. You know how
I know, yeah.
opposites attract, but it's very difficult to have a relationship work. So maybe we'll talk about personalities and like the MBTI and the DISC and profiles and all of those differences in
Mhm.
part two as well. But let's leave you with part one. We hope you enjoyed it. Our whole intention is to make sure you know that you are your first line of defense. And so you're also your first line of protection. And so you have to armor yourself up with these tactics, these tips, these techniques, do your investigation, do your background search, everything that you can to make sure that this is a person you can trust. Ask those good questions, trust your gut. Don't be afraid to stand up for yourself and speak for yourself. And always, if your gut feeling is, I don't like this, walk away. You don't owe anybody any excuse. Remember my elevator story. I didn't like this guy. I just turned around, walked back to the lobby. I don't need to tell him why. I don't need to make up an excuse. I don't like you. And even if he were to question me about it, I don't owe him an answer. I don't know who this
No.
person is, but I'm protecting myself. So always remember that. But maybe part two, we'll get into how to make sure we're in the right mindset, overcoming thought distortions, working with our personality differences and all of that to make sure that we have effective communication practices and
Yeah. In
bring all that
fact,
stuff.
I have a great story for part two, all about a dominatrix that was training women to be mentally stronger and tougher. It's real, real gold. So believe me, come
You
back for
bring the
part
gold,
two.
Gav. Yeah, you bring.
We
All right.
will.
Well, there you go. We are doing a
Yep.
part two. It's official because I need to hear
Yeah.
this story. Anyway, all right.
Brilliant.
Gavin, will you remind people of who you are and where they can find you?
Yep.
Before
So
we
Gavin Stone, I am on social media, all the social media platforms. A lot of them as Gavin Stone author. I have a YouTube channel myself that you check out, where there's a lot of former colleagues and friends from the spy kind of world that I get on there and we interview. And all my books are on Amazon and all the major retailers. So yeah, please have a little look and check me out. And when I say check me out, I mean, you know.
check them out.
I'm going to
How
end on
appropriate.
that.
And I'm Lena Sisco, former Navy intelligence officer, Marine Corps certified interrogator. I've worked for tons of government agencies, started my own business in 2013. My first company is the Congruency Group. If you Google that, you can find out all about me and the training programs I offer. I do a personal mentor program as well. I do have a monthly newsletter. And if you go to the homepage, you can subscribe to that. It's free. And the newsletter will come into your email box every month. You can also find me at Sector Intelligence, social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, and of course here, and our private Facebook group, TCG Tribe. If you have any questions, we will read the comments. So ask a question. We will do our best to give you guys answers. There will be a part 2. I am super excited for it. But for now, please use the tips that we have provided. Protect yourself, be safe, and we will see you next time. Bye.